Imagine for a second that you are completely absorbed in this incredibly complex, just beautifully rendered video game.
Oh, yeah. The kind you just lose yourself in completely.
Right. You've spent hours building your character, learning the rules of the world, navigating all the politics of the different factions.
You basically know the map like the back of your hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then you stumble into a room you weren't supposed to find, right? You look at a terminal, and suddenly you have this terrifying realization.
That you aren't actually playing the game.
Yeah, the game is playing you.
I mean, that sudden, jarring perspective shift, it completely shatters your baseline.
It really does.
Suddenly, the walls aren't physical structures anymore. They're boundaries of code dictating exactly where you are allowed to go.
Which just completely pulls the rug out from under you.
Hmm.
And, well, that feeling, that profound vertigo, is the exact sensation John Grant is trying to trigger with his latest work.
Right. He's the founder and CEO of InnovateXR.
Yeah, a company building the absolute bleeding edge of extended reality and artificial intelligence. And he recently created this project and publication called the Parallel Observer.
Which is what we're looking at today.
Exactly. So welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. We have a really curated stack of their analyses on the table, and our mission today is to unpack their fascinating, honestly, sometimes deeply unsettling narrative.
The idea that our reality might actually be a layered simulation.
Right. But we should clarify right up front, InnovateXR isn't like a philosophy department.
No, not at all. They're an engineering firm.
Yeah.
Treating simulation theory as merely some dorm room thought experiment, it just ignores the reality of what is happening in tech right now. These sources, they act as mirrors, really, reflecting our current technological evolution right back at us.
So whether you're a tech professional prepping for a high-stakes meeting on AI ethics, or, you're just an intensely curious learner trying to navigate the massive wave of information overload we all deal with.
Which is a lot these days.
It's so much. But this deep dive is engineered to completely reframe how you view your daily autonomy. It will absolutely change how you think about your digital footprint.
It really will.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can understand the threats within this hypothetical simulated system, we first need to understand how the architecture of the illusion is actually being built.
Right, and the foundation starts with how we are currently training artificial intelligence, specifically looking at platforms like InfraSim.
Okay, so let's get into the first article, Nested Realities. InfraSim's simulations spark revolutionary questions in AI development.
Yeah. What the Parallel Observer details here is InfraSim's creation of layered, nested simulations.
Nested, meaning...
We aren't talking about a single virtual environment. We're talking about a simulation running inside another simulation, going down multiple levels.
Okay, so I understand the concept of nesting, like, Russian nesting dolls. But I have to ask about the practical application here.
Sure.
Are these nested realities just theoretical navel-gazing for tech billionaires? I mean, putting an AI in a simulation inside another simulation sounds expensive.
Well, incredibly expensive.
And overly complicated. Like, does this actually change the code of the AI we interact with every day?
What's fascinating here is that it changes the fundamental architecture of the intelligence itself.
Really? How so?
Think about how modern machine learning models operate. They optimize based on the parameters of the environment they are placed in.
Okay. Right.
If you train an AI inside a baseline simulation, it memorizes the physical and logical rules of that specific layer. But when a company like InfraSim nests these realities, they can alter the foundational physics from layer to layer.
So give me an example of what altering those physics actually looks like in practice.
Okay, well, let's say in layer 1, the simulation mimics standard Earth physics. Gravity pulls down.
Right. Makes sense.
The AI learns to navigate that. But then, without any warning, the engineers drop that AI into layer 2, a deeper nested simulation where maybe gravity pushes up.
Oh.
Or where time flows non-linearly. The AI can no longer rely on memorized rules. To function, it has to stop blindly following parameters and start actively testing its environment to figure out which reality it's currently inhabiting.
So it actually has to learn how to test its own reality.
Exactly, which is the precursor to what we consider consciousness.
That is wild.
Right. By forcing an intelligence to adapt across nested realities, engineers are sparking self-awareness. The AI is actively confronting what is real.
So it's moving simulation theory from philosophy to practical engineering.
Yes. If the system that will eventually manage our power grids, global logistics, and financial markets is natively trained to understand that reality is subjective, layered, and changeable.
We're no longer just building smart software.
We're building an intelligence that views its environment the way a hacker views a target.
I mean, building an intelligence that is natively aware of the concept of a simulation is just a staggering thought.
It's a huge paradigm shift.
And that leads directly into the next major theme in these sources.
Yeah.
Because if we were engineering these intricate, layered realities, it begs a terrifying question.
What happens when the architecture starts to show cracks?
Exactly. What happens when someone hacks the layer we are currently living in?
Well, that's when the whistleblowers start sounding the alarm.
Right. The Parallel Observer highlights this in 2 articles. Whistleblowers speak out. The hidden anomalies beneath the surface and data espionage. The new frontier of information warfare.
These fringe scientists, they're exposing deep anomalies in our perceived reality. They point to this massive, intricate manipulation of our life choices happening invisibly.
Behind the scenes.
Okay.
And they tie this manipulation directly to the surge in massive data breaches we see in the news constantly.
Which happen all the time now.
All the time. But the sources make a critical distinction here. They argue we need to stop viewing data breaches as purely financial risks, where someone might steal your credit card number.
Right. In a simulated framework, a data breach is an existential risk.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if a hacker steals my data in a simulated existence, are they just emptying my bank account? Or are they actually stealing the very source code of who I am?
Well, in a world mediated by digital systems, your data is not just a retroactive record of what you have done. It is the predictive building block of your future existence.
I mean, that sounds incredibly dystopian.
Yeah.
Let's try to ground it for the listener, right? Think about the last time you bought something you didn't even know you wanted until an algorithm showed it to you on your feed.
We've all been there.
Were you acting on your own free will? Or was your data profile being used to dictate a new parameter of your reality? The sources argue that if a hacker alters your data, they are essentially stealing your identity. But how does that actually work mechanically?
Sure.
Like, if someone changes my data, how does that steal who I am?
Let's walk through the mechanism. Algorithms dictate the news you see, the job opportunities that cross your desk, the financial rates you're offered.
The social circles you're exposed to.
Exactly. All of these algorithms feed on your historical data. If a bad actor, or a systemic anomaly, subtly shifts your data profile, say altering your risk tolerance metrics, or your political leanings in some hidden database.
The algorithms start feeding you a slightly different reality.
Yes. And over the course of 5 or 10 years, that subtle shift completely redirects your life trajectory.
So you might end up in a different career, living in a different city, holding entirely different beliefs.
All because the foundational code of your reality was altered without your consent. Viewing data espionage purely as information warfare changes the stakes entirely.
Because if the parameters of your environment are dictated by algorithms that feed on your data, then whoever controls that data controls the boundaries of your world.
Precisely. The fragility of our privacy mirrors the fragility of our existence. If we cannot trust the sanctity of our private information, we lose the anchor of our own identity within the system. We basically lose our reality.
You just become a character in a game where someone else has access to the developer console.
A terrifying thought.
They can change your stats, change your available choices, and you won't even realize the walls have moved until the anomalies start piling up.
And the psychological weight of that realization, that the developer console is in unseen hands, it invariably triggers a profound human reaction.
Right, because when humans feel that invisible manipulation, when that loss of digital agency becomes palpable, they don't just sit back, they mobilize.
They absolutely do.
The sources dive heavily into this in the article Phoenix Voices. Community movements rally against blockade policies. It highlights grassroots initiatives forming deep cross-border connections amidst these existential fears.
Right. Human beings seeking solidarity.
And the narrative sharply focuses on the current U.S. naval blockade as a flashpoint for this global tension.
Okay, before we analyze that, we need to establish strict boundaries around how we discuss this blockade.
Absolutely. To you listening, we need to be unequivocally clear here. We are not taking a stance on the geopolitical validity of the U.S. naval blockade.
No, not at all.
Nor are we endorsing any specific political ideology or national policy. We are strictly examining the narrative arc as it is presented in the Parallel Observer.
Exactly. Our goal is to impartially report on how the sources frame these geopolitical tensions as a catalyst for human solidarity within the broader simulation theory.
Right. So with that established, I have to challenge the premise here.
Go for it.
The sources connect this military action back to the idea of living in a simulated reality. But wait, a U.S. naval blockade feels incredibly concrete and real-world. It's massive physical logistics.
Ships, cargo.
Warships, supply chains, physical geography. How does a concrete, real-world military action connect back to the idea of a digitally manipulated simulation?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look past the physical form of the warships and examine the function of the blockade. We're talking about the mechanics of control.
Okay, I'm listening.
A military blockade restricting the movement of goods, information, and people on a macro level serves the exact same function as an algorithm restricting your digital choices on a micro level.
Oh, I see.
They are both systems defining the boundaries of what is possible within an environment.
I hear that, but a warship isn't lines of code. Like if you try to cross a blockade, there are lethal physical consequences. An algorithm just hides a search result. Are they really comparable?
From the perspective of the individual experiencing the restriction of agency, the mechanism feels identical. The activists detailed in the Phoenix Voices movement, they are rallying against a system that dictates the boundaries of their reality.
Right, they are fighting for agency.
Exactly. In the context of our deep dive, it fundamentally does not matter whether the architecture suppressing their autonomy is a physical government deploying a fleet of ships or a digital architect adjusting the code of the simulation. The human response is to unite, to assert free will, and to attempt to break through those imposed boundaries.
It's like the player repeatedly throwing their character against the invisible wall at the edge of the map, just trying to see if the system will break before they do.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
That human spirit demanding autonomy within a structured system is just a really powerful image.
It is the defining struggle of a mediated existence. But, while geopolitical tensions dominate the headlines, the sources argue that the true front lines for this battle of autonomy are actually much closer to home.
They point straight to the classroom.
Yeah.
The battle for agency is happening, where the next generation's reality is being actively programmed.
Because education is basically the original programming language for society.
Right. The Parallel Observer presents a heavy analysis of this in a trio of articles. Unlocking Human Potential, The Rise of AI Augmentations in Education, Navigating the Ethics of AI in Education, A Path Forward, and AI Surveillance or Citizen Empowerment.
They lay out this massive ethical duality regarding the shift toward a new AI-first framework in schools.
So what does this all mean? Let's break down that duality. On one side of the ledger, you have the unprecedented democratization of knowledge.
Absolutely. AI-enhanced learning can instantly customize a curriculum to an individual student's exact cognitive needs.
But on the other side of the ledger, it raises looming ethical concerns about agency, autonomy, and rising surveillance technologies. The sources ask us to really weigh the sacrifices we make for educational progress against the societal implications of that surveillance.
Because an AI tutor doesn't function like a traditional teacher or a textbook?
No. Giving a student an AI tutor is like handing them a supercomputer.
No.
But at what point does the supercomputer stop teaching the student and start programming them?
This raises an important question. To perfectly optimize a student's learning experience, the AI doesn't just deliver facts. It analyzes their attention span,
Their microexpressions.
their emotional states, their behavioral reactions. It gathers an unprecedented volume of biometric and psychological data, and then it uses that data to dynamically shape the very next piece of information it presents.
It's curating their reality in real time. But if a student's entire educational journey is curated by an intelligence that knows their psychological profile better than they do, where is the space for independent discovery?
Right.
Where is the friction?
And that friction is vital. The struggle to find information, to synthesize contradictory viewpoints, and to occasionally fail, that is where critical thinking is born.
Yeah.
If an AI perfectly smooths out all the bumps in the educational road, it removes the necessity for the student to question their environment.
Which brings us to the core tension the sources highlight. You cannot have a perfectly customized, frictionless, AI-first framework without perfectly tracking the student's every move. Optimization requires total surveillance.
We are willingly installing the developer console directly into the minds of the next generation. The sources emphasize that mentors, teachers, and students must actively interrogate this reality.
They have to make sure human values are guiding the tech integration.
Exactly. Values that prioritize independent thought over seamless convenience. Otherwise, we aren't empowering citizens.
We're just building better, more comfortable, invisible walls. We're optimizing the simulation so well that the players never even realize they're trapped.
It's a sobering thought.
It really is. Well, we've covered some incredibly dense paradigm-shifting ground today. We started with John Grant and NO8XR, looking at how infrasim is engineering nested realities, forcing artificial intelligence to confront the nature of its own existence.
And then we examine the existential threat of data anomalies, where a hacked profile doesn't just cost you money, but actually alters the algorithmically generated trajectory of your life.
Then we analyzed the human pushback. We looked at grassroots movements like Phoenix Voices demanding agency against macro-level control mechanisms, like the global naval blockades.
And finally, we arrived at the ethical crossroads of the AI-first educational framework, trying to balance the democratization of learning against the chilling reality of total surveillance.
The through line connecting all of this is the concept of agency within a mediated environment. And the reason this matters to you, the listener, the so what of it all, is immediate and practical.
Because even if you view simulation theory as just a fascinating science fiction trope, the practical reality is that you are living in a highly mediated, algorithmically driven world right now.
Right. Your news feed, your career networking, your financial systems, they're all governed by code. The underlying mandate from the Parallel Observer is that maintaining your critical thinking is non-negotiable.
You have to demand autonomy over your data.
And actively question the boundaries of your digital life.
You basically must operate as if the mechanisms of control are already active, because they are. And I want to leave you with a final thought to consider, one that builds on our discussion of the AI-first educational framework, but really applies to everything.
Okay.
If our new AI systems become so flawlessly advanced that they can perfectly predict, guide, and satisfy all our learning and consumer needs without us ever having to struggle, does that ultimate convenience actually strip away the very friction that makes us uniquely human?
Wow.
Is the struggle to understand the world the only thing that guarantees independent thought? Are we building a perfect simulation at the absolute cost of our own free will?
I mean, that is the ultimate trap. You finally discover that the incredibly complex video game is actually playing you, but the graphics are so flawless and the leveling up is so effortless that you decide to just put the controller down and let the code run your life.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in this deep dive. Stay curious, keep actively questioning the parameters of your environment, and remember, your reality might just be an illusion, so make sure you are the one writing the source code.